What's up, guys? Welcome back to Fit Body Secrets, where my mission is to bring you guys inspiration, motivation, and a ton of tips to help you guys on your fitness or your fat loss journey or a combination of the two. And today I want to talk about hunger and more specifically the different types of hunger. And if you have not yet registered for my workshop that I'm doing this Thursday, I also want to put a plug out there for you to join in on the workshop because I am going to be breaking down a lot of things. I titled it Mastering Your Appetite, but the main things that I really want to cover, I actually just sent out the email with the outline. I want to talk about specifically things like sugar, salt, hyperpalatable foods, those foods that we tend to not be able to say no to, along with understanding your appetite, hunger cravings, and all of the factors that might be influencing those things and helping you gain some control over your appetite. Because when it comes down to changing nutrition, it really does come down to mastering your appetite. It's knowing like you want this, but you need to have that, or you want to have that, but you need to have this. And it's learning how to have a little bit of both and find that common ground and that balance. And there are some things that people don't understand about mastering their appetite because especially when it comes to fat loss, it's going against our body's natural needs. Our body naturally is going to crave calories for energy. And when you are trying to lose fat, you're actually restricting your body of what it thinks it needs. So we want to really get a better handle on that. And that's really the goal of my workshop. And today is just a little snippet of what I'm going to be talking about in that workshop. But I thought it would be very important for all of you guys to also learn a little bit about, because it can be really hard to, I'll be honest, we are so easily influenced by everything else around us that listening to our own intuition and our own hunger cues is so hard. And I find this hard, not just for my appetite, but also in my training as an athlete. I just talked about this yesterday. I'm so conditioned to be to the dot on my training program that I will check the boxes no matter what. And sometimes that isn't always the right thing. You got to learn how to listen to your body a little bit. And that's how progress is made. And there is obviously a level of, like I mentioned, when you're in a fat loss phase, you have to go against intuition, but it's knowing how to manage the right amount of stress. So all of that to say, if you haven't already signed up for my workshop, you want to learn more about blood sugar, you want to learn more about sugar cravings, salt cravings, hyperpalatable foods, how to incorporate those things, how to gain control over eating those things, how to gain control over your eating so you can finally get to the results that you want to. My workshop is going down this Thursday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to actually be replacing my cohort call for my Essentials program. I've already told all of them that they're included in this program or in this workshop as well, because I think it's a good topic for everybody. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about what I got for you guys today. Today, I want to talk to you guys about the different types of hunger. And I made an Instagram post about this the other day. I think that we are all very conditioned to see hunger as one thing, physical hunger. And that's like, I actually feel, that grumbling in my stomach. I feel empty. Maybe you're feeling a little bit shaky. Maybe you're irritable, you're moody, you have low energy. Maybe you're getting a headache. Maybe you're having a hard time focusing, or maybe you're just thinking about food. It's that feeling of I need to eat because I'm physically feeling something. You might get some anxiety. And this is the only type of hunger that I feel like people actually know how to honor. It's I know I'm starving right now. I've got to eat. And this hunger typically happens, when people are going too long without eating. This is typically what will happen in people that try and dial in their nutrition is they're under eating all day, but they're so busy. And I talked about this too in one of my Instagram reels. They're so busy, they're not thinking about food. And then all of a sudden it's they're on their way home and they're I cannot wait to get home and raid the cabinet. I'm so hungry right now. So that's physical hunger. You actually feel the need to eat. And this type of hunger, we want to make sure that, especially in a fat loss phase, you're going to have some physical hunger. Hunger is not a bad thing. Physical hunger, it's not going to kill you, but it's important to understand what level of hunger you should feel in between meals and what you should feel going into a meal. And actually, as you're eating, what type of hunger you should be feeling or what level of hunger you should be feeling to understand how to gain control over that feeling. because it can actually bring you feelings of like anxiety and stress if you don't really understand. That's why you tend to just start eating and you're not really thinking because you're just trying to satisfy, trying to get rid of that feeling. And I think that for a lot of people this is where I feel like sometimes fasting can sometimes help you desensitize you to knowing like, okay, I'm not going to die if I don't eat right away. But it's just about teaching you that it's not about using fasting as a protocol for fat loss. It's just showing you that you can survive without eating right away. It gives you a little bit more of that sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Security, that you're not going to die or keel over if you don't have something right then and there. So it's okay sometimes to hold out if you have physical hunger. When it's getting bad and it's now impacting you, physically and mentally, you probably should eat something, right? Like when you're like, now you're like not able to focus, like you're screaming at your kids, means the physical hunger has taken a notch too high. And it's important that, and I'm going to talk about this in my workshop, that you guys have some foods in place that are like this. These are your like, I'm go-to hungry. This is my go-to meal. This is my go-to snack for when I'm really physically hungry. So that's the first type of hunger, and the hunger that most people are most familiar with. The second type of hunger is one that I think people are familiar with, but don't really know how to honor. And I call this practical hunger. So practical hunger is maybe it's 11 o'clock right now, as it's 11 o'clock right now on my clock, and you have an appointment today at 12:30 p.m. You normally eat lunch at 12:30, and your appointment's like 40 minutes from your house, so you know that you're going to leave your house at 12 or like 11:45, and you're not going to get home until about 3. So it's going to be a little bit of an afternoon where you're not going to have your food available. You might eat even though you're not really that hungry before you leave, because you are going to be gone for a period of time. And so your goal is to get ahead of your hunger so that when you come home, you're not ravenous. And this is where having some structure to your nutrition can really help you in the long run. So you have your lunch a little bit early, or maybe you have a little bit of a different lunch that day. Maybe you have like a 2 smaller lunches. You have a lunch before you leave and then a little one when you get home. Something like that can be really beneficial for somebody that's dealing with a practical hunger. And practical hunger can really help you guys, especially if those of you guys that maybe have a lot of my mom clients, I like to call them, and my dad clients, they might be going from work to gym and then taking the kids to sports. So sometimes, even though the kids might not be eating until they get home, you might bring something with you to the sports to eat, or maybe you're eating right when you get home from the gym to not wait until 9 o'clock at night to eat something. So that might be practical hunger for you, right? So it's things like that that are important. Practical hunger could also be holding off to eat. So you're like going to feel a little more physical hunger, because practically what you would prefer doing is waiting until you're home and relax. That's kind of a practical hunger scenario. And practical hunger, guys, is something that you guys really want to get used to understanding. And also, this is why it's so important to look at your schedule, especially if you are looking for fat loss or dialing in your nutrition, or if you're somebody that does go to the gym in the afternoon and you're leaving your house at 11, and then you're going to want to go to the gym afterwards. You're going to want to make sure that you have something, because you're going to know that you are going to get hungry before that gym session, and you don't want to take your gym session. Okay. The next type of hunger is one that I think people are familiar with, but I feel like it gets such a bad rap. Okay. So like emotional eating is the word that a lot of people, or stress eating is the word that a lot of people will use when they're talking about this type of hunger. Emotional hunger is totally normal, and it's not always a negative emotion. Positive emotions can bring up feelings of wanting to eat something enjoyable. Okay. So emotional hunger might come up for you as a way to cope with either good or bad feelings. And emotional hunger in itself is not a bad thing, as long as you have control over your appetite and you are not using food to avoid different situations. So example is like emotional hunger might be like you're excited over something and you go and you have the craving for like having a dessert. Like that's okay. It's okay to feed emotional hunger. Just like, I guess I would like to say that some people, not that I want to tell people to become alcoholics, but some people like to decompress at the end of the day with a glass of wine. That's okay. When you're now literally avoiding your life because you're drinking wine, that's a different story. When you're, literally you can't even think straight without drinking the wine, that's a problem. It's the same thing with your food. Emotionally, it's okay to eat something because you're feeling something. Sometimes just being in certain situations might trigger you to want comfort food because it maybe remembers you get a memory from when you were a kid or something like that. Emotional hunger is totally normal and part of obviously developing a healthy relationship with food. Understanding how to navigate it and, like I mentioned, like when to feed it is going to be important. And one of the things that we're going to cover in my workshop. And then the last type of hunger that I want to talk about is taste hunger. And this is also, I feel like, a hunger that we all try to just block out. And taste hunger is essentially like, you just finished dinner, but you have the taste for something sweet. That's normal. It's normal to actually crave something different. That's part of our palate. And it's also okay to feed that taste hunger. And when you have mastered, the balance between these different types of hunger and how to feed all of them while sticking to your calorie goals, while getting in enough nutrients, you are going to be able to be more successful at creating the body composition changes that you want, making sure that you're fueling your body enough, and hopefully fixing some of the negative mindset things or mindset beliefs that you have around yourself with nutrition. So, for instance, a lot of people feel guilty when I'm talking about taste hunger, that they want something sweet after dinner. They're like, oh, I shouldn't be eating this. I don't deserve this. I shouldn't have this. And that's not always the case. It's okay to feed that taste hunger. And the other thing about this is I feel like we try so hard, or maybe you try so hard to follow a diet plan, and you're thinking that you're like a robot and you're only ever feeding, the physical hunger, that you should only be ever eating for fueling your body. Like the whole, like, I eat for fuel, not for anything else. Like that's just not natural. Like it's not natural as a human being that is exposed to so many different delicious types of food. So I want you guys to understand that it's okay to feed these different types of hunger. So the first step is understanding what type of hunger you're actually experiencing. Are you feeling physically hungry? Is this a practical hunger? Like, I know I'm going to be gone for a while, I should eat something now. Is it an emotional desire to eat because you're having a feeling? Or is that you just really are in the mood for something? And understanding how you can build meals and snacks that actually fit all of those different types of hunger and consume them on a regular basis is the overall goal of you mastering your appetite. So, a little bit of a shorter episode today because I am really excited to be talking more about appetite, about hunger, about cravings, about sugar, salt, hyperpalatable foods, all of those things that you guys have questions about, or maybe you have beliefs about, whether it's I shouldn't be eating sugar, or I've got these insulin problems, or my blood sugar spikes. I just like want to take a workshop and help give you guys clarity on all of that stuff, and hopefully give you guys the confidence that these things are not the reason why you can't get to what you need to get to, and giving you more control over your appetite so that you can focus on the things that you need to focus on. So if you guys have questions about the workshop or you want to sign up, I am going to put the application, the sign up sheet for it in my show notes for you guys. But this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode because I am getting my stuff ready for that. But if you guys have any questions, you know where to find me, and I will talk to you guys all on the next episode.